Today's question comes from Brian in Nebraska. My wife and I live in Nebraska. She's graduating from dental school, and we are expecting our first child in May as well. The only debt we will have is a combined $300,000 in student loan debt once she is done with school, and a mortgage of $180,000 with $40,000 to $60,000 in equity. I currently make $62,000 a year as an architect. She has a job offer in Memphis, Tennessee to teach as a professor for $160,000 or work in Nebraska for $100,000 to $125,000 a year. Do we move to Memphis, Tennessee with a newborn where she can make more money and we can sell the house to put our equity to pay our student loans, or stay in Nebraska to continue paying down debt and have a community that is able to help with the baby? Well, the first thing that struck me is only $300,000 in student loan debt.
We only have $300,000. It's not $500,000. It's only $300,000. Oh my God!
Whew.
Yeah.
The other thing that's interesting to me is she's graduating from dental school, which that seems to be where the debt's coming from, but then she's going to be a professor.
Well, there's a dental college in Memphis.
Okay.
She's going to be teaching dentistry.
But do you think it's better to start out being a dentist and get real world experience before teaching?
It's obviously not necessary. I
And I'm
mean,
just
how many
even thinking-
professors did you have that had real world experience doing anything except being a professor?
I mean, that seems like the best route. I also just wonder, too, like, if she became an actual dentist, could she make more money and knock that debt out quicker?
He's saying she's got $125,000. Really, first year out, 125 on dentist is about right. I'm a little shocked at how high the professor's score is. That's a pretty score.
160.
Now, and the question is, too, okay, so if you move down there and you don't make at least 62, this is not an upgrade.
Yep.
He's got to get a job making 62 or more as an architect in Memphis.
Well, that also seems a little low for an architect, right?
Does, yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of questions on this.
Yeah. So, all right, let's throw some assumptions on there so we can answer it. Let's say that you moved to Memphis and you made 80 as an architect, and she made 160. Okay. And you live there 3 or 4 or 5 years, and you clean up your dadgum mess that you've made. Only $300,000 in debt, right? Did he say how much equity in the
40 to 60 in equity.
Yeah, not much. Okay, so that's not going to move the needle. The big thing that moves the needle is the income difference. Or we change jobs as an architect in Nebraska and make more money, and she gets a better job than she's been offered so far as a dentist and makes 150 in Nebraska. If she can make 150 and he can make 80, and you hate the idea of Memphis instead of Nebraska, then I would stay. And it takes you another, 6 months to a year to get out of debt.
Yeah.
You know, if you do that. But you seem to be underpaid.
Right.
For your, I mean, if you have a 4-year degree in architecture and you're making 62, I got a problem. Okay, period. Let's just say that. Number 2, 125 is a little low, but not super bad for a first time out of the gate dentist. That's not bad at all. I kind of think I'm hearing down under that last sentence, have community that's able to help with a baby. Do I move away from everything that I know? My family, my roots, my church?
Well, and another factor to consider is the fact that, like, I don't know what that community is going to do, like how much they're going to help, but there's daycare costs as well. If you move to Memphis, maybe in Nebraska you have a grandma who's planning on taking care of the baby, and in Memphis you're going to have to pay for full-time daycare. So even in that equation, just making sure to factor in childcare costs.
You got to run that in there too. So, if you maximized your income in both locations, it sounds like Memphis gets you out of debt a year sooner. No one says you have to live there the rest of your life. It's not required. You could go work there 3 or 4 years and then move back to Nebraska. That would be fine if you hate it. You could look at it as an adventure. You know, it's not a permanent decision forever and ever. I'm in. You could look at it as an adventure and go do that. Like, for instance, these people that are contractors with the military and they go to Dubai for a year and make 6x what they would have made in the States and pay off everything, and they can basically give up a year and they have a little adventure in Dubai and go do it, and or whatever. And there's in the sandbox one way or another, and there's people doing that, and that's that. But it's a matter of looking at it. I think I'm going to be away from community and everything that I know has a rest of your life feel to it that isn't required. Um, as far as I know, you can still they still allow you to leave Memphis once you move there.
True. I mean, but I'm also thinking, like, personally, she is graduating from dental school, so there's going to be a huge life change just in going from being a full-time student to working. And then she just had a baby. She's got a newborn. So even just, man, the first year postpartum, I would not have been super excited about an adventure across country and moving away from family. So there's also just the emotional aspect of, like, what does she really want? Like, what is her capacity? What is she?
We're going to Minneapolis tomorrow night, okay? And I've got friends that grew up in Minneapolis. They were born and bred there. Everything they knew was there. And at 50-something years old, they said, "I'm tired of being cold. I'm leaving." And they moved to Nashville, and they live down the street from us, and they're sweet people. They go back to Minneapolis occasionally, see their friends, but they were tired of it. And you may be tired of Nebraska. I don't know.
True.
But it doesn't say that here.
True.
What seems to be between the lines here is you would hate leaving Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason you'd be doing it would be for a little extra money. And I would challenge you instead to go maximize your incomes where you are and stay.
100%.
Yeah, and if it takes you 1 year longer to get out of debt by doing that. But don't stay there and make 62 and 100, which is more than which is all she could have made that much by herself because you two both minimized the crap. If you make 60 and she makes 100, that's 162. She got an opportunity to make 160 by herself in Memphis. That's not okay. So if you're going to stay in Nebraska, you need to go up your game.
Yes.
Somewhat. It doesn't have to be as high as the Memphis. And the Memphis deal does not work at all, dude, if you don't get an architectural job there making more than you make now.
Right. Well, and I'd also be curious about cost of living. Like, it seems like, I mean, I'm not super familiar with Nebraska, but it seems like it'd be cheaper to live there versus in Memphis. But
probably, but Memphis is not that high.
But also just make sure to compare that, because even the equity you have in your house, 40 to 60,000, it's not that much money. And so just make sure you compare the cost of living, the cost of daycare, all of that, and factor all that into consideration.
So here's a mistake that people make in their logic on this, and this is the subject in general. Do I move for a job? It's as if they're doing am I doing something wrong if I don't take a job in a place I hate because it pays more? No, you're not. Careers are personal things. Personal finance is first personal, and then it's finance. And so, if I'll give you an example. Okay, people told us with the Dave Ramsey show in the old days that it will never be a big radio show if we don't move to LA or New York. And I'm like, I like visiting LA or New York for about 48 hours, and then I'm ready to leave. The chances of me living there is precisely zero. And if that means that the Dave Ramsey show is never a big deal because I refuse to locate in one of those two cities, then it won't be. Now, it turns out that we're the second largest talk radio in America today. So those people that said that didn't know what they were talking about, thank goodness. But I made the choice. Quality of life. Nashville versus those two places? Oh, dadgum, no question.
I'm chuckling a little bit inside trying to picture you living in LA or New York, bringing redneck radio to the big city.
Well, we are broadcasting both of them. Thank you very much.
There you go.
But yeah.